Okay, see this nice pretty spruce tree right here? You can always tell spruce because of the types of needles, little short needles on them. Spruce boughs make a good bedding. But what we want to look at is right underneath here. This plant is called Verbascum thapsus. And what it is, it's a biennial plant. Its common name is cowboy toilet paper. It has very, very velvety leaves. This is a second-year plant. This year is going to shoot up a spire about 4 to 5 feet tall, and it'll have a yellow flower on it that'll start at the top and bloom downward over the course of about a month. But during that time frame, it's going to make seeds, and the seeds to this plant, they're tiny. It'll make a whole bunch of them. But this plant is also used as a tobacco substitute, and it's actually good for your lungs. There's Bailey the super dog. Looks like we got a few little berries on the spruce tree. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about foraging. You also see there's some small violets under here. I don't know if you can get those or not, but violets are edible. Verbascum thapsus, or common mullein, is not edible, but it has been used as a medicinal by the American Indians or Native Americans for a very long time. Little crocus.
It's a crocus?
It's a crocus. It looks a lot like grape hyacinth. And a lot of times the crocus will come up in the lawn before the snow ever is gone, or just as the snow is leaving. And you basically let it grow until time to mow the lawn, then just mow them down. But it's a pretty little flower. For scale, I'll put my hand down there. It's very tiny, very dainty. Right there's some food, very good for you. All parts are edible, common dandelion. But the new leaves are very, very good for you. And the root makes a coffee substitute. You bake it, and it's really good. This is a winter annual. Right here, it's a member of the mint family. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, wow. Here we go. It's called henbit. Yeah, let's get a piece of it. This comes up in the fall and overwinters. You can tell the mint family because it has square stems. I don't think you can really see the square stem there. But for what I know, all of the mint families are edible. But with any edible plant, you must know what you're dealing with. Don't take my word on that. Yeah. You have to verify it with at least 2 other sources. Excuse me. We're in our subdivision, and this area is a water runoff area. Wouldn't forage anything from here. If you look up this way, is a forest preserve, and it's up on a hill. Behind that forest preserve, there's a natural prairie, and they burn it off. I don't know if chemicals or not, but you have to be very, very careful foraging around roads, any kind of drainage ditches like this right here. This little stand of water could get somebody killed. It's a real good place to get some kind of type of a disease like cholera or waterborne parasites, things that would give you dysentery, diarrhea. Diarrhea is one of the biggest things a person needs to worry about in the wild, because you'll dehydrate and die. We're going to walk over this way a little bit and look at this here. This is a drainage area. This sometimes has a good water flow through it. Again, this is a horrible, horrible place to collect water. We have a holding pond right over there. Don't know if you're getting this. We have the holding pond dumps it right over here. There's a drain pipe underneath, but then it's got all of this downhill runoff watershed area. These houses up on the hill, any chemicals they put on their lawns will be concentrated in this area, and they generally they stick around for a while. They're resilient, and they will stay here for multiple seasons. So this, I would consider this contaminated. As nice as it looks, it's a contaminated area. I would not forage from this area. If you're going to forage in the city, usually the best place to do it is in the worst neighborhoods where people can't afford to put chemicals on their lawns. Lawn chemicals will build up in your system. Probably not going to hurt you if you eat, a dandelion salad one time, but it will build up. Down here, this plant right here, if I can get to it. That plant right there is a buckhorn plantain. I'll show you this as the season progresses. There's two types of plantain. The buckhorn will get a flower on a stalk, or a stalk with a seed head on it, about 8 to 10 inches max. The nice thing about plantain, it grows from a basal rosette, and these leaves have medicinal qualities. You can take plantain, chew it up, and put it on a rattlesnake bite, and change it about, make a poultice by chewing on it, and change it about every 10 minutes, plus eat plantain the rest of the time, and it's said that it'll get rid of the effects of a rattlesnake bite within about 24 hours. So if you know what you're doing out here, there's all kinds of stuff. Right here, oh, here's a couple of good plants. That's rhubarb. Everybody's had rhubarb. The thing to know about rhubarb is just that piece of stalk is all you can eat. The rest of it's poisonous. There's a bigger violet right down here too. I don't know what kind of quality I'm doing with this. I'm trying to do this with a phone. But I'm just wanting to show you how many wild edibles there are out here. The plantain is edible. Clover's right there, edible. All that's edible. It's trifoliate. That means it's got a compound leaf with three. Everybody knows what a clover looks like. The flowers, especially the red ones, can be quite good. But that's a clover. Okay. There's last year's dandelion. There's a new one. But these younger leaves than the dandelions. Let me see if I can find one closer to me. Here we go. The younger leaves are very tender, very good. Again, where they're growing, I would treat them like they're poison. Oh. And do not try to identify the plantain off of what I've shown you right now. A lot of wildflowers are edible, but you have to know what you're eating, and you have to verify it. It's best to verify it with at least 3 books, and in multiple seasons, and 2 live people, experts, who can tell you that it's safe to eat. Right now we're walking towards the subdivision up there. This is water shedding down towards the camera, and as we get to that line there, that would be a good place to forage. The trees there are juggling nigra, which is black walnut. You really got to compete with the squirrels for the black walnuts in the fall. Excuse me. And it contains a substance called hydrojuggulone, which is what is it? Allotropic chemical that prohibits or stunts the growth of other plants around it. That's why the understory here is so sparse. Every part of this plant has the hydrojuggulone, and it leaches out. If you happen to have black walnut trees and can't keep things growing, what you need to do is make sure you pick up all the debris from the trees every day. This is a medicinal plant called mother's wort. Wort means plant. Mother, obviously. So I don't remember what this one does, but it's easy to identify, it's plentiful, and you might want to look that one up. I'm looking for something else. It should be here, but I don't see it. So I think I'm going to pause you for a minute. Okay, in front of me here, we have a bramble. I'm going to say it's a raspberry because they're all over here. Now, all of these types of plants are called brambles, and if you'll notice, the dieback is always from the tip over the winter back up the stem. I didn't bring a pocket knife, or I'd show you where to cut it, how you tell where to cut it. I don't know how good that's going to show up for you, but that's going to make some fantastic berries. But back again to those walnut trees. Walnut trees are very desirable trees for the nuts. You got to compete with the squirrels. You got to get them right away, and it's best to get them shelled just as soon as you can. They will turn colors. They'll turn black. They come off the tree green, about the size, a little smaller than a hardball. And but get them cleaned up, dry them up, get them out of the shell, and get them cleaned before the squirrels get to them. The thing in nature, when you're trying to eat off of nature, the hardest thing to find is fat. The best place to do that is nuts. This here is also some form of a mint family, not sure yet. There's a square stem, if you can see that. Square stem always identifies mint family. Leaves are opposed. I killed that one. The leaves are opposed in pairs. One on one side of the stem, one on the other. Okay, the leaves are most of them look kind of the same. They've got what's called a toothed margin. The margin is the edge of it. And they've got very pronounced veins. On the underside, they have even more pronounced veins. But let me see here. What I'll do to identify this, I'm pretty sure it's catnip. Crush it up. Oh yeah, that's catnip. Catnip. Like I said, it's a member of the mint family. Here's a bigger stem. Maybe we can see the squareness of the stem. Easiest way to identify is the square stems. See how nice and square that is? Opposed leaves. Got the little dormant buds right down in there, in between the petiole of the leaf and the stem. Oh, having a hard time breathing here and talking, guys. But there's all kinds of edible stuff right here. This makes a wonderful tea. Do not smoke it. It is hallucinogenic if you smoke it. Why do you think cats like it so much? It really does get them high. And from what I understand, it gets them high to the point of hallucinating. But here is perfect. The house, the watershed area is all back in this direction. Okay? This is raised here, and it's wild on the other side. So the chances of chemicals getting here is not too good. Now, I'm not 100% on these at this point in the season, but that appears to be wild strawberry. Of course, we don't need to know. There's more mother's wort. It's small. I'm looking for something called garlic mustard. And it's great for a wild green salad. It's kind of pungent. You don't want to use a lot of it, but it does add a lot of flavor to a wild green salad. I should see it. But I noticed last year, being a horticulturist, I'm very tuned into what's going on. The insects, the plants. Plants that should have been blooming right now were blooming in August. Insects that should have been gone at the end of... Okay, here's another mint plant. I can tell that just by walking past. Probably catnip again. Yeah, it is. There's another catnip. They're all rather similar. The opposed leaves and the square stem are your first clue. All right. This is a prairie area. I've been here long enough that I know they burn this off every year. Chances are they haven't really put anything out here as far as herbicides or anything. Okay, here we go. This is a big one, a big example. This one right here. Yeah, that's yarrow. Yarrow is called soldier's wort. The reason being, you can dry yarrow. It's, as far as I know, it's not, they don't eat yarrow. You dry it into a powder and it will cause blood clotting. So you put a poultice of yarrow over a bad cut and it will cause bleeding to stop. But we're wanting to walk out here a little bit because I see something you need to see if I can get there. Didn't plan on doing this. There's some more clover. That clover will be fine to eat. I might just have a taste. Good stuff. Okay, right here, you can see this stalk. The mullein that I showed you up underneath that plant. This one is, oh my goodness, about 7 foot tall. There you can see the flower stalk. This is called a spire, this type of flower. It doesn't bloom all at once. It starts blooming at the top, works towards the bottom. It's a yellow flower, and the seeds in here are useful. Don't eat them. They're poison. They're very poison. But all parts of this plant will affect fish. Native Americans used to take this plant and use it to take the rocks in a creek and build an area that would funnel the fish in there and form a fish trap. Go upstream and take some powdered or some cut up verbascum thapsus or common mullein and dump it in the water, and it would knock the fish out. Then they could just collect the fish. This also, if you ever have to make a fire drill, this stalk is very good for a fire drill. It's one that they suggest. It's not that strong, and I believe you can make cordage out of this too. I'm not sure on that one. Don't quote me. But these are some plants you want to look into. The reason I wanted to come up here, if you look at all of those sticks sticking up out there, I'm seeing literally 1,000 of them where I'm at. It's a very common plant. And these are all second year plants. They've been through their second year and they're done, okay? I'm looking, there should be new ones, but I'm not finding them. The grass is kind of thick here. There's some more yarrow. Yarrow will grow on a lawn and it won't be that erect. That almost looks like a fern, it's fern-like. But you know, if you have a lawn that looks like it's got little ferns laying flat on the ground, that's yarrow. It's very invasive. And like I say, you can dry it up, powder it. Keep the powder with you. If you get a arterial bleed or something, it could save your life. Okay, now I'm not seeing any nascent Verbascum thapsus plants. I'm extremely surprised. They're supposed to be up by now. Like I said, they have changed our climate enough that things aren't happening like they're supposed to. You might have seen the videos on YouTube where people will go out with the little gun that looks like a thermometer and shine it underneath the tree at night, and it might say 70 degrees. Then they go out in the bright moonlight and shine it, it'll say 66 degrees. It's actually, moonlight is cool. It is separate from sunlight, which is warmer. But plants need both moonlight and sunlight. So part of the effect they're having with doing the chemtrails at night is it's causing further damage to our crop cycles. So we're going to see food become very, very scarce. The reason that I'm doing this is to let you know that right now, if nothing else was kicking off, I could survive out here. You could survive out here with just what I've showed you. Your diet would be boring. You wouldn't like it, but you could live, okay? And this is Northern Illinois. The USDA hardiness zone is zone 5A. And just a couple miles from here is where zone 4B starts. It goes from Florida, the extreme Florida is like zone 10, up to Alaska, zone 2. So it goes from the south to the north, numbers get smaller. It has to do with the average coldest temperatures in the wintertime. I think for zone 5 it is 25 to 30 or 35 below zero. And that should be the coldest temperatures we get. 2 years ago we got 35 or 37 below for a couple of weeks. But, well, y'all got just a real short introduction. The most important thing that we've talked about is the watershed and the presence of chemicals, foraging close to streams, and anything that would tend to concentrate the chemicals is very, very dangerous if you're going to forage for wild edibles. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight to y'all. See you later. Okay, well, fortunately, I didn't shut off the camera all the way yet. So it's still recording because there's a couple more things I forgot to tell you. When you're foraging and you come across the wild edible, number one, identify it for certain. And even if it's something that you know is edible, it's not been a part of your diet. Go slow with it because it may cause a food allergy. And, you know, the worst thing that you want out here is diarrhea. You can dehydrate and die in a very short period of time. There's a rule of threes. You can go 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 30 days without food. And the part we're focusing in on right there, oh, I'm sorry, I messed it up. You can go 3 hours without shelter. So 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without food, or without water, and 30 days without food. So if you get out here and get yourself a bad case of dysentery, collecting water in the wrong spot, not purifying your water, never drink water anymore without purifying it. Steam distillation is by far the best, not always practical. If you're somebody that has MMS, the miracle mineral solution that I've talked about, that was originally, it's sodium chlorite. And there were tablets, and the way that it was discovered is they were military water purification tablets. You would put it in a tablet in a quart of water, wait 30 minutes, and it was safe to drink. It would kill everything. Same thing that it does in your body. How it was discovered is Jim Humble was in South America on a gold prospecting expedition, and somebody had malaria. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words. He was thirsty and asked Jim to get him some water. Jim was concerned and, kind of a little bit panicked. He grabbed up some water, dropped a pill in it, and didn't wait long enough and gave it to the guy. The guy drank it. He was, sweating and shaking and everything. 4 hours later, he was cured. What happened is malaria has got there's two different parasites. It's falciparum and vivax. Plasmodium falciparum and Plasmodium vivax. The falciparum is the worst one that's more likely to kill you. It's been wiped out in this country, but it is making a comeback. And only a certain mosquito carries it, but George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they all had it. And what happens is when the Plasmodium parasite gets in your system, it starts breeding and it loads up your system. And then when it gets to a certain level, then it starts causing its problems. And then if you survive it, it'll go away. Your immune system may keep it fought off for a while, but it keeps reoccurring. And it's not a pleasant disease at all. But that's one of the things that was kind of an interesting little tidbit, is the fact that the sodium chlorite, which is the MMS1, and then they've got calcium chlorite, which is commonly found in pool supply stores, is pool shock. Careful, not all pool shock is calcium chlorite, and I haven't done anything on that yet as far as telling you anything about it. But they call that MMS2, and in the more advanced protocols that Jim talks about, you add the MMS2, like if you're stage 4 cancer, things like that. There's other things you can do, DMSO, MMS2, but these are good chemicals. They keep well, and they're broad spectrum. They'll wipe out a bunch of stuff. But that's not medical advice, okay? I'm just telling you what I heard. Look, there's some more little violets down here. We're starting to go back down the hill. I'm probably walking about 3-4 degrees downhill. Not very steep at all. But I'm still in an area that's safe to forage. Right over here, that's properly named. That's a yucca plant, and I say yuck. I do not like yucca plants except for one thing. The yucca plant's root is like a natural soap. You can actually dig up the root and use it for soap. If you ever plant a yucca plant, you'll never get rid of it. If you pull it up and you get one little piece of root left in the ground, it'll grow a whole new plant. You'll see behind it, they've got some onions that have overwintered there in that tomato cage. I thought that was interesting. But it's another one, plants aren't only for food. They're for medicine. They have utility purposes, making cordage, all kinds of things. I want to brush up on something first before I tell you about grass plants, but grasses are generally safe. Problem is, once grasses get to a certain point, they start producing a protein called lignin, and the body cannot handle lignin, cannot digest it. It's called lignification, and that's what makes this plant here, that's what's going to make it woody, is when it lignifies. At the very end of a plant, and this is not a good one to demonstrate on, the growing portion of a woody plant is called a meristem, okay? This one here, is this going to show a meristem? Yeah. This here is not lignified. I can tell because it's kind of stretchy. There, it broke. But that's what you can tell. And on some plants, see, just the growing tip right there. I don't know if this is an edible. I haven't taken the time to identify it. It's not. It's a tree. I know what it is. But anyway, that part of the plant is a juvenile portion of the plant. Maybe I'll have to get some diagrams and tell you about juvenility in trees, because trees differ in how they respond from top to bottom. And they call that juvenility. Some of it acts like an adult tree, some of it acts like a juvenile tree. But if you can see here, and I know they throw a lot of chemicals out here, but if you can see here, a large amount of dandelions that are available. And those dandelion greens are bitter. These are not edible because of where they're grown, but they're plentiful. They will keep you alive. Now, we're back to the same problem of not having the oil. So you need to get oils from nuts. You don't have any acorns. I'll show you some acorns and tell you a little about that. Acorns are edible, but not when you just pick them up off the ground. Acorns are prone to having little worms in them. So when you harvest acorns, you need to lay them out close to the fire and let them get heated up to kill off any larvae in the inside of them. Okay, then you shell them, put them in like a cheesecloth bag, a sock, whatever. Put them in a clean running stream for about 3 days, and it'll get rid of something called tannins or tannic acid. Same thing they use to tan leather. But that's what makes them bitter and makes them where we can't eat them. Oh, here's some nice violets. Look at those. Aren't those pretty little guys? Yeah, that's very nice. Very, very nice little violets all over here. I love the spring wildflowers. Beautiful time of the year. Coming up on my favorite month. May has always been my favorite month. And it's a great foraging month. So it's coming up on a real good time for you to get a good book and get out and spend the time out there. Doesn't matter how much you learn how to books. If you don't get out here and use it, you will not have it when you need it. And a good example of that, there's been many people that have sat in a field of very edible plants. And just because they hadn't done it, they didn't like the taste of it, they would sit there and starve to death. You need to incorporate this stuff now while you have the option of doing it, rather than trying to wait until you have no choice but to do it. If you do that, you're in trouble. And I'm going to try to pause this and get to a white pine tree. Well, that didn't work.